In this video, we're going to move on to, in my opinion, is probably one of the most powerful tools that you're going to make use of in really whatever language you end up choosing. And that's going to be functions. Now, without functions, we would have just a single main function here that contains a ton of reused code that you would just have copied and pasted everywhere and it would just be a massive cluster and a humongous pain to find and make subtle changes to whatever you need. You wouldn't really have any sort of modularity or anything like that. You can't just, take a class, move it over to another program, make it plug and play, that kind of stuff. You really are going to make use of this pretty much in whatever language you use, and it is something that you learn. Well, at least I did probably about a quarter way through the semester. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to be moving this stuff over to a function and just have it return a value. Now this value is going to be either true or false. So I wanted to check, well, this function check if the age is greater than a certain value. So what we're going to do is we're going to pass in user age to this function. The function is going to dictate whether or not user age is greater than, it's going to dictate whether or not a user age is equal to 51. If it is, we return true. If it's not, meaning the default statement has run, we return false. Let's go ahead and begin writing that function. Now, in C++ and a lot of other languages, you're going to work from top to bottom. So to give you an example, let's say I have just this empty function, void example. This will be just fine. Let's say I move it below the main function. Better yet, let me actually make it do something first. I'll just print out a bunch of random text. And I will comment out the stuff here. So I'm going to simply call example. Again, this is just, you can ignore what I'm doing. So it'll print out this big old thing of text here. Now, what if I move this function down below the main function, like this? Well, I tried to call it. It doesn't know what it is. Can't resolve symbol example. But the function's right here. And if I try to run it, it's going to fail. Example identifier not found. Well, that's because we work from top to bottom. So what is up above our main function is going to be known in our main function. What's below our main function, what is defined below our main function is not going to know about. And there's a couple ways we can avoid having the functions up here, and I'll walk you through them as well, because odds are you're going to use those too. It's called function prototypes, but for right now, we're going to ignore that. So how do you define a function? Well, let's look at our main function right here. We have the return type. So in the example that I just made, that was void. And void means there is no return type. This function does not return anything. Doesn't matter. Then we have the function name, then our parentheses, and this is where we would put our variables if we're passing any to it, which we will be. And then if we return something, meaning we have a return type here other than void, so in this case it's int, so we return an integer like a number, we're going to return a number. So we're going to have a boolean, so we want it to be true or false. So we're going to do bool, then our function name is age equal to 50. And here we can have our logic. So for now, what I'm going to do is I want to drag this stuff out. So I'm going to copy this whole section, including, I'm going to copy everything and paste it right into this function. And now I'm just going to simply call it. So how do you call a function? Well, you write out the function name, do the parentheses, that's it. So is age equal to 50? We have now just called this function, and it will run everything just like before. However, instead of printing out some stuff here, what I want it to do is I want it to return true or false, because that's what this is going to return. So is age equal to 50? If it is, I want it to return true. If it's not, I want it to return false. So I'm going to remove these these couts real quick. I'm going to change this from case 51 to 50. And if if user age is equal to 50, if you recall from the previous video where we covered switch and if statements, we're going to return true. Now, because we're returning, that means no matter what, nothing below the return will ever run, which means we do not need this break statement anymore because nothing below has any chance of running at all. In our default, because age is not going to be equal to 50 in here, we're just going to return false. So now if I go ahead and just build it, make sure everything's okay, we can hover over this and we can see our function call. So we have bool, which is our return type, is age equal to 50. Great. And if you remember the previous video where we did if statements, you can also use function return variables or values inside of if statements. So what we can do is if is age equal to 50, print out age is 50. And we end the line. Then we have our else, age is not 50, like that. Let's compile. Enter your age, 50. Age is 50. So we printed out this line here, which is correct. Try it again. Let's do 6. Age is not 50. So that is all cleaned up. So we're going to break this up and do some functions here. 1 to 2 functions. 1 to get the input, and 2 to get the to check if the age is equal to 50. So the way we're going to do this, we're going to copy where we get our user's input, like this. So let's copy that and delete it and make another function. This one's going to return an integer because that's the type that we're getting. So we're going to do int get user's age and paste it in. Now all we do is we simply return user age. I'm going to go ahead and delete this real quick. So now that we have our function to get the user age, it's going to return an integer. What we can do is int user age equals get user's age. Now how do we get user age into this function here to check it, to see whether or not it is equal to 50? Well, this is where we use parameters. So we're going to use these these parentheses here as our parameters. Well, this is where we pass our parameters into. So what we can do is we do the type that the parameter is going to be. So in our case, it's an integer. And then we have the name. So in my case, I want it to be user age. And as you can see, that fixed this error right up. Now, this doesn't have to have the same name as the variable that we're going to pass into it. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and call it. So if, let me change this from is age equal to 50 to age equal to 50. So if age equal to 50, as you can see, it's prompting us to pass in a value. We're going to pass in user age. Let's print out a string. Age is 50. Do an else. Age is not 50. So anyways, as I was saying before, this variable name here for the parameter does not have to be the same as the variable that we're passing into it. So for example, I could change this one to user's age, blah, 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 and paste it in, and it would be just fine. I'm only pointing that because years ago, parameters for some reason confused me as I was first trying to learn just programming, and it I don't know why, it was something that was difficult for me at first. But anyways, that example out of the way. Now we can do this check here like so. So now when we run it, We'll enter in 6. Age is not 50. That's correct. Now let's enter in 50. Age is 50. So let's do a quick overview of what we have done. So instead of having all this inside of our main function, what we did is we broke it up into 2 simple functions. Now what it did is, first off, we created a function called getUsersAge. When we call this, we prompt the user to enter in an age. We get the user's input, and it stores it inside of userAge. Once it's been stored, we return that value. So because this is returning a value, we want to go ahead and store it because we're going to use it. So we store it inside of userAge, like so. And then we have another function called age equal to 50. So we check if age is equal to 50, and the age that we're going to check is the age we got from the user from our function getUserAge. So we're just passing in that value along to this function here. It does its switch statement to check it. If it's equal to 50, we return true. If it's not, we return false. Very simple. So we can simplify this up with an if statement as well. So if user age equals 50, return true, else return false. And really, we don't even need this else statement anyways, because it's going to stop after we return true. If we hover over it, it says redundant else keyword, so we can just get rid of it. So if user age equals 50, we return true. If that fails, we return false. And it's going to do the exact same thing. So then we just do our check and make sure it returns true or false. If it returns true, this code inside of here runs. If it returns false, the code inside of here runs. Now we can shorten this even farther if we really wanted to. We can get rid of that and get rid of where we pass in the parameter. And what we can do is we can check if age is equal to 50. Well, what we're going to pass in as the parameter for user age is going to be this function. So we can pass in a function that has a return value as long as the return value is what the parameter is asking for. So I can pass in get user's age, just like that. So we check if age is equal to 50, and the age we check is our function return value of get user's age. So we're checking user age still. I want to try it. 50, age is 50. Try it with 6, age is not 50. So that's all there was to that. So that's how you can call functions. You can pass in variables to it. You can kind of hopefully see the way this is going. And if you're not, anyways, you can find my Discord in the description, and if you're kind of confused, you can feel free to ask and I'll lend you a hand. But hopefully this made some sense. And yeah, if you like what I'm doing and you want to help support me, you can find a link to my Patreon in the description. And like I said, if you get stuck or anything like that, feel free to join the Discord server that's linked below, and I will lend you a hand. And if I'm not on in time, I'm sure somebody else in there will. So I will see you in the next video.